All right, well, thank everybody for coming. We're excited to do this today. We're excited to show you what we've been doing for the past year. So we moved out here pretty much about a year ago. When we moved out here, everything from where y'all are standing that way was about like 4 to 5 feet tall of just weeds and stuff. So we had kind of a blank canvas and a whole bunch of food for goats ready to go when we moved in. So, Carrie, you want to come over here with me? Let's just kind of, I want to start just by talking about,
yes,
she got out again?
Kiddo and I will come over.
Okay.
Come here, Kiddo.
Okay, so I want to start just by talking a little bit about like moving out here and like the whole idea behind what we were trying to do out here and you know, all of that. Because I think that's important before we start showing everything. We were living in the city. If you've seen like our website, you've seen maybe the before and after photos of our garden and stuff. And we had like basically done everything we could with our 1/3 of an acre lot. And we wanted to do something like this, but it was always like a someday type thing, right? And then whenever COVID sprung up and we went on lockdown, we just kind of made the decision of, we're gonna do this now. It seems like a good time to try a crazy thing. So we found this place, put an offer on it before we even saw the inside of the house. Had to write like an essay to get it because there were 20 people trying to get it and we had to offer like 20% more than they were asking. But thankfully we got it, and we basically just, you know, at that time, I was going through a lot of health issues. Like I had gained about 60 pounds, like coding the app, and then like COVID and all that kind of stuff. And my blood pressure was like really bad again. And I was like having a lot of issues. And so this was kind of our like, let's fix it. Like, let's give me a bunch of projects outside again. And that's kind of what this is. So, and also our long-term goal with this place is to build a place that's a teaching farm, that's open to every school in Oklahoma to come to, and that's like staffed by volunteers, and like that's the dream of what we want to build here. So we're living here while we're building it. We're learning as we're doing all this because a lot of this is new to us. And then our goal is to move out somewhere else with a couple hundred acres, and I want like a lot of cows. I want like a whole herd of cows. Like I want to, like, you know, a lot of cows that let me hug them. Like that's my dream life. Right now I can only have one cow here that will let me hug it. I need more cows. So anyway, that's what we're doing here. Is we're building that now, and we're gonna teach you like this, or we're gonna share what like what we've learned from the first year. And I'm very thankful that Blaze is here with us today, because when we moved out here, she was the first person we reached out to about what do we do, how do we do like chickens and goats and all this kind of stuff, because I'd watched hours and hours of YouTube videos, but I hadn't seen a lot of stuff in person. So I went out to her farm, and she was very graceful and showed me like everything that they had and all that kind of stuff. And anyway, so I'm very thankful she's here. She's going to share her expertise as well. Carrie is the chicken expert. She loves, and Mary is around here somewhere, my 5-year-old.
Chicken wrangler.
Yeah, the chicken whisperer. She can tell you the name of every chicken out here pretty much. So, so anyway, let's get started. We're going to start by kind of walking through just kind of what we did. So we had all those Smart Pot fabric raised beds at our old house. We moved those over here, about 10 trailer loads full of them over, and so we had a garden pretty much already when we moved in. So like walk with me and imagine now like you're starting this off with all of these Smart Pots, right? So when we moved in, we pretty much had all these Smart Pots we moved in with, and now I'm going to talk about kind of our garden and how we started off, and kind of how we're changing, how we're growing like as we move. So let's kind of get started with this. So if you're not familiar with these Smart Pots, they're just fabric raised beds. They're just like regular raised beds, except these have lasted a lot longer for us. We had the wooden raised beds at our old place when we first like started gardening, and after 3.5 years they started to fall apart. Now I didn't use cedar, and I didn't do a good enough job of keeping moisture off of it, and like there's stuff I could have done better, but these lasted a lot longer. I like how portable these are. We have had a lot of rain recently, and this is pulled through just fine. Just made it right on to water as much because the wood chips hold moisture, and I think the wood chips are a key component of it. So if you probably have Bermuda or something like that, or maybe just a mixture of weeds, either way, the easiest way to handle it that I found, if you have some time to wait, is to cover it with cardboard. Like cover all of it with cardboard, and then a thick layer of wood chips as thick as you can get. So there's a couple ways to get wood chips for free or really cheap. The Norman compost facility that's down in Norman, down off Highway 9, you can get them for free. You can take your truck in there, they'll dump them in the back. It would take a lot of truckloads to fill this. We signed up for the service called Chip Drop. So it's CHIPDROP that that lets you basically notify landscaping companies and arborists that you want to be a drop location for wood chips. So, and you can offer up some money as a tip. I usually do like $40, and I've gotten one load out here from that. You can also find people on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace often that are like offering to bring out wood chips and stuff. So those are some ways to get it really cheap or free. And then just cover that with either raised beds or something like smart pots. And what happens is over a couple years, the wood chips, the cardboard, all that breaks down. A bunch of worms come up and eat the cardboard. Like anywhere, if you pull away cardboard, you're going to see a ton of worms. And after what we found at our old place was after 2 years, we could start planting in the ground if we had wood chipped a couple feet. Now, if it's only a foot, then it took 3 years. So the deeper the wood chips we did, the sooner we could grow in it. And then what we did at the old place, and what we're going to start doing here, is we started filling in around the perimeter and around different places with perennial things like rosemary or sage or bee balm or whatever we wanted to have around. And we kind of just scattered those around and did it directly in the ground. And then we thought of these as our annual beds that turn over into new stuff. So like this lettuce, I don't want to grow this down in wood chips because then when I go to harvest it, I'm pulling wood chips out of it and it's like a pain in the butt. If I go to harvest this right now, which it's bolting, so it's not going to taste great, but look at that, it's just lettuce, right? It's real like clean up off the ground. So, so anyway, that's kind of our method on why we grow things and stuff like that. And other like specialty crops like potatoes over here are great to grow in these smart pots, especially because when you go to harvest, you can just dump it out. And then you can get to everything easily without having to, you know, if you're like growing in the ground, you like dig, you shovel hits it, you just ruin that potato. So what you're seeing in our garden right now is our spring garden dying, and we're about to plant our summer stuff. So we have some stuff that we may plant today. If some people want to stick around and do some planting after this tour is over, we'll go ahead and do that after like the tour. So if anybody wants to see like hands-on how we're going to turn this into tomatoes and peppers, we'll show that. But for now, I'm going to talk about what we're going to do. So right now, what you see in here is a mix of a bunch of different, show this over here for the rabbits. That's the great thing about having these rabbits is when we go through and harvest this stuff, everything goes right to the rabbits.
You want it in here?
And then they're making gardens for us. We can move this little tractor around. It's called a rabbit tractor, and wherever we move it to, they're building new gardens kind of in place. So they're fertilizing it and all that. So it's a great relationship. They're happy about it. We've asked them. So we have a lot of different greens like baby bok choy and spinaches and lettuces and kales and all sorts of stuff. A lot of it that you see is doing this is what's called bolting. A lot of people think, oh, this plant's done, right? Wrong. This is when the plant is making the most nutritious thing it ever makes. So this little seed pod right now, and about this stage, is the most nutritious way to eat the plant. Not the most, it's not gonna taste the best, not always. It's gonna be a strong flavor, like the mustard one is very strong mustard flavor. But if you put it on a wrap where you normally did mustard anyway, it's mustard flavor, right? So this is a bok choy. I don't like the bok choy ones as much. But like these type of things you throw in like a little salad, a little wrap, things like that. This has all the nutrition of the plant bundled into a tiny place because this is the baby, right? I mean, not to be too brutal about it, but that's what we're doing. Like, so the plant, it's trying to like say, I want to reproduce, I want to make a new plant. I'm going to put everything I got in this little seed, right? Well, this is it, we're going to eat it. And that's where we get all the nutrition out of it. So anyway.
So you're eating the plant's baby?
Yeah, absolutely. I know it's a brutal thing when you think about it, but that's the nature of it.
We'll go back to that when we talk about the pigs later.
No, yeah, I know. Don't worry, we have different opinions on that. We'll talk about that too. So anyway, and you know, if you've heard of microgreens, that's kind of the same idea. It's just the sprout of the seed. You know, it's still about the same thing. So a lot of how we plant is super dense. Like this kale is very dense. I'm going to thin that down to just 1 or 2. And then I need to do that now. And then we'll have just one or two that grow, but I've got some microgreens basically that I maximize my space. Because when we first started growing this way, and I had like 1 or 2 little broccoli seeds in this like giant smart pot, I was like, this is silly. I'm wasting all of that real estate. So like, then the thought became, well, let's just plant dense and then harvest down, survival of the fittest, let the biggest broccoli win, and that's how we handle it. So, and a lot of these beds we kind of leave that way because the mescaline, like we're just harvesting, like this is pretty much all bolted, but we've done like several harvests off of that. Like it's probably the 2nd or 3rd round that we've harvested it because it continues to go. And this one was basically just a rabbit bed. That's where we just kept feeding them from. So let's talk about some other stuff we've got in here from the spring. That's still gonna be going. Like I mentioned, the potatoes, a lot of them are back here. Mescaline mixes. This is some broccoli. I need to thin that down and let a couple live on through the summer. Oh, I'm sorry, this is broccoli. That's kale. Carrots. We kind of just got a mix of stuff. Whenever we plant later, like I'll go in more detail maybe if y'all want to like talk about. Are there any questions about specific plants that I've mentioned? Yes.
Well, just going back one, so on your pots, so I started a container garden last year and it totally screwed up, right? It all boiled down to the soil.
Yeah.
What's the soil?
That's a great question. I should have mentioned that. Thank you. So what soil do I put in here? Because that's the most important part of all of it. We make our own soil mix. And as we walk around the farm, I'll show you, like I have mixes already made and stuff, but I'll just kind of run through it now. It's real basic. It's a mix of either peat moss. Is that a cat? All right, sorry. One of my friends may be in trouble. Sorry. Either peat moss or coconut coir is one of the ingredients. The second ingredient is either vermiculite or perlite. And the third ingredient is compost, but specifically a mix of different composts. So I get my compost from, so I buy some from Middick Materials, and they have 4 different kinds there. When I buy it, I got their biggest truck they had. I got that delivered, and I told them I want an equal mix of all of it. So that gives me 4. I make some here. I have some worm compost. I've got rabbit compost. I've got llama poo. Like all of that I'm mixing together. Obviously, if you don't have all these animals, like you can't do that. So when I was in the city, I would just buy Middick and then have worm farm.
Vermiculite.
Compost was one. And then vermiculite or perlite, and then peat moss or coconut coir. Like those are interchangeable. That's why I say the or, because like peat moss is cheaper, but there's environmental concerns with it. So, you know, coconut coir is more sustainable. Vermiculite is maybe is a little more expensive. Maybe sometimes you can only find perlite where you are. So like, you know, that's why I say the or, just give you some flexibility. On our blog, we have all this like documented. We have videos, like blog posts, all of it. So you can just search for seed to spoon soil mix, and that'll take you to, like on Google, that'll take you right to it.
Is it typically equal parts of all 3?
It's expensive if you do that.
Okay.
If I were filling like 2 of these, I'd say yes, do it right. You know, if you're trying to fill all this, that's not like, it's very expensive. So I'll back down on the vermiculite. And you can add in a little sand to replace the vermiculite. So
you're saying like if you had a small area, do like a third of each, like.
Yeah, that's the ideal mixture. Like that's the perfect mixture. That's the Mel's mix from Square Foot Gardening that a lot of this is based on, right? But Mel was a retired engineer, so he had a lot of money.
What would you cut down on then?
Vermiculite.
Just on that?
Yeah, I would maybe switch to perlite because it's cheaper. Add in a little sand.
Unless you can get it online. I've gone to getting the course vermiculite.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
Big bags of it.
Another part of this is if you go heavy on compost, just plan to plant something that eats a lot of nitrogen. That's a heavy feeder. Plan to lead off with that. So spinach is a heavy feeder. Broccoli feeds pretty heavy. Corn, tomatoes, like. So I would lead off with something that's a heavy feeder, so it'll suck up a lot of the excess nitrogen, so you're not imbalanced when you get to the thing that maybe is a little more fragile. So that would be my strategy if you wanted to back off on one. But if you want to do it by the book, just do a third of each. So what we're doing now is we're going through and we're harvesting this stuff, and I'm basically just giving it to all the animals. It's feast time for them right now. And then I'm going to be planting behind them tomatoes along these arches. So we're gonna have probably 3 tomatoes on this one. It's gonna grow up and over the arch. On that side, I'm gonna plant something that is not a tomato, probably a bean that doesn't grow quite as tall, because it's gonna be a while before the tomato gets over there. So if I can plant a bean that's like a semi-bush, but not like they have these like in-between beans where I get like 4 or 5 feet and stop. I would stop, like it would stop about right there, and then I'd have a lot of time before the tomatoes overtook it, and I'd get plenty of beans off of it. And by then they'll work together. They'll figure it out. I've done that a few times where the beans and the tomatoes figured out together. So that's typically what we do with here. And then in the fall, we will plant and seed our carrots and stuff like that in here because they're shaded. So that gives them the carrot, like the carrots are pretty hard to get to sprout in the fall because it's so hot still here. September, you're still seeing 100 degrees. You have 2 of those go by without watering and that thing dries out, the carrot's done, because carrots are really fragile in that way. So when they're under the shade in the summer, then they're good to go. And then by the time this stuff is gone, that stuff starts to come, and it's a whole symbiotic relationship. So that's how we like to do these. You can do the same thing with greens, like lettuce don't like the heat too, so we give that some shade before. Strawberries have done pretty well in here because they don't like the heat too much, so they take a break in the summer. We have kale up here in the front. So what we're going to be doing now is basically just fitting in as many tomatoes and peppers in here as we can in here. And then we're going to be doing some of the watermelon and the okra and all that kind of stuff is going to be going on out there, which is a whole different kind of gardening strategy that we did when we moved in here. So we'll talk about that here in a minute. I want to spend more time just talking about kind of this side, because the most important part of our garden, I feel like, is this back row over here, up along the house. These are our herbs, and pretty much every day when we're cooking something, I'm coming out here to pick different stuff, and I'm grabbing some oregano, some thyme, some parsley, some sage. Like I'm trying different combinations of stuff depending on what I'm making, and this is where you're going to get the most amount. Like if you're growing for the purpose of health benefits, this is where to start, because this is where these are the most like nutrient packed things you can grow and add to your diet. And if you think, well, I put this stuff in the package from the store, then you might as well that's not anything. Like that's like a very old plant that doesn't have, unless you're going to Whole Foods and buying it, who knows. But where I come from, the Walmarts of the world, the McCormick stuff isn't doing you any good, right? I hope I don't get sued from McCormick. I gotta edit that out. So anyway, the point is this is where you get the nutrients of the plant. It tastes way better. If you're OCD, you got to be careful. You end up with a basil obsession. So we've got like 14 types of basil scattered around, and I just chase Bill Ferris around, asking him what new varieties he has every time I see him. He owns Prairie Wind Nursery, and he kind of specializes in herbs. If you don't know who he is, and he's the best place I found to buy herbs from. He's always like at the Scissortail Market or something like that is where you can find him. So anyway, like this is the best, and plus like once you start growing zucchini, and after like the 3rd or 4th time that you've had it, you're like, well, I'm tired of this now. This is, you get tired of the flavor quick. But if you can add in a little sage one day and parsley the next day, or thyme, and it has a different flavor each day. And then if you switch that up with like fish or chicken, like you mix that around, you have like a whole new dish. And it lets you have like a bunch of variety in meals from the same basic things from your garden, while getting all the nutrition that you need. Because like oregano has been, if you go Google like the top things you can eat for your health, oregano is going to be on every single one of those lists. Rosemary's probably on a lot of them. Sage, thyme, all of these are on those lists. That's why we grow a lot of them. So if you don't already have our app actually lets you filter the plants list based on the health benefit that it helps with. So like we started growing because I have a lot of issues with anxiety and depression, and we were trying to find foods that would help with that. So we're basically trying to grow things with a lot of magnesium, so kale and spinach and things like that. So if you choose mental health on the list, it'll filter the plants by that condition and show you the things that help with that. So if you're curious about growing for those reasons, definitely check that out.
You can find the smart pots there as well, too, right?
Yeah, the smart pots we actually sell these now out of our warehouse. We're doing all the shipping and everything ourselves now, so we have them on hand, so we can get them to you quick. Is what I'm trying to say. We're not outsourcing that part anymore. One other part I want to mention is like all the mints over here. It's pretty cool to have stuff like that. I didn't really know how to use mint until we discovered that you can put it in water and let it sit for a few hours, and the water absorbs that flavor. And especially in the summer when it's really hot, that mint flavor will cool you down. So I'm we're going to the lake here soon, and I cannot wait to take that like mint with me and like when I get really hot. So
Can I brag about your garden a little bit?
sure, yeah. I haven't let you talk at all. I'm sorry, Blaze. I get to rolling.
You guys know I'm having a bad garden year, and so I was actually excited about this part of the tour too. But how many people have been trying to plant in the ground this year with all this rain? So I'm really interested in getting more raised beds going, and if you know, like when you apply for like the NRCS grants and loans, they want to tell you what to do, and you have to grow in Oklahoma soil in the ground for the first few years, and so we're kind of trying to decide what's best for us to get some more stuff raised up. But his garden looks amazing compared to mine, you guys. Mine's I could grow catfish in mine. He can come fishing at my house, really. But I wanted to point out, you don't see a lot of bugs. I'm sure he'll talk about this a little bit more too. You don't see a lot of bugs other than the beneficials. And I'm gonna just probably talk about animals today, utilizing animals in the garden. And the rabbit tractor is something that we do at home too. Rabbit tractoring, quail tractoring, duck, chicks will all help fertilize your soils and give you compost in place, like the deep litter method that he's utilizing over there in that one. But then also the fact that there's not a lot of grasshoppers and stuff because he's got a chicken highway going all the way around that's helping keep the bug flow in balance, which is extremely important so that you don't have to use pesticides in your garden. So I'm very, very impressed with how well all of this is doing. But Carrie pointed out to me earlier, you can actually see the flooding on the side of the smart pots, that the water came in pretty high, like what, 5 or 6 inches?
Yeah.
And the plants are still protected and doing fine compared to having planted in the ground. We actually did some swales this year.
The bugs are now assaulting you.
I
Like,
know,
what
right?
are you doing?
Like,
Right here in your face, Blaze.
We had tried to do some swales with hugelculture, which is really helping us this year, but the swales, the front end of the swales are still so full of water that I can't even walk in there without going underwater with my boots. So I'm planting, I do have some plants that are doing okay because they're up in the top of those swales, but it's the same concept, and we are working towards doing more raised garden beds like this. So I was really excited for you guys to get to see this. And then, did you use chickens? Did you use livestock to clear this area first as well?
Not in here.
Okay.
So that's like as we move out that way. I'll let you talk about that
Okay.
when we get over there, because that's like we got some. Basically, we just like she gave us some. We bought some goats from her and some chickens from her, and then we just let them get to work. And that's what we'll talk about when we move there. So let's go ahead and get over there and then let you show kind of how we did that. And so everything from that tank over that way, again, was like 5 foot tall weeds we moved in. And our goal was to make it gardens. So we got this electric fencing. And Blaze, do you want to talk about this electric fencing and go in detail on that?
Premier One electric fencing. I think we all have a love-hate for it, but it's well worth the money if you're going to do livestock with your gardens. We say it again. Premier One. Dale and I both use different power sources. I did go ahead and buy myself a solar charger, but he's got his hooked up to electric, which I think is going to give you a lot more bang for your buck jolt-wise, but also it's a lot more affordable. So if you can get extension cords to your spaces, then it's a definite great way to start. And obviously, we all know that if you're going to use the word symbiotic or sustainable, you can't do this without the animals, and you got to find the balance. I mean, the best way to do it is with the hot wire. We do use the netting. We're very forested on our 20 acres too, so I do go with some of the Premier One stakes and single strand wires on my animals as well, just depending on where we're doing that at. But Premier One is about the best way to be able to rotational graze on small spaces, especially. The first time I came out here, they were just moving in, and it was all brush. And I know some of you guys know how much I have a distaste for goats right now in my life, but goats are an amazing thing to help you clear the understory and get stuff cleaned out, because as they're eating free food, they're fertilizing your soil and getting rid of all of that understory so that he can actually see what he wants to plant and map out for his next garden spaces. So I think it'll be cool to walk around and see what all he's got going on here. But just like the rabbit tractor, it's building up soil. Everywhere you move your livestock, they're getting free food and they're fertilizing that soil. So as long as you're doing it on a kind of a constant rotation, depending on what you want to do, because he has concentrated some in certain areas specifically to get rid of all that seed before he plants in another space. And I think you're going to show him some of that over there.
Yeah, let's go up there and show that area. So this was our first area that we started working on when we moved out here. We couldn't even walk through here. I mean, We couldn't even see that was a hill until we moved, till after we started mowing. It was like, so they got it all down to this, and then so let me talk about a little bit about like what we did, and then I want Blaze to kind of talk in detail about kind of how this works. But we started off with the goats and the sheep, because they take it down to just basically grass, like just bare nipped grass, and then the chickens and the pigs come through after that. And then they go through and get the rest of it up, they till it, the pigs go through and root and do all that kind of stuff. So that's basically what we did with this area, but I wanted Blaze to talk more about.
So when doing that, then you basically get rid of your parasite load and break the cycle, right? So you can do this with any animals, just depending on how much space you guys have. I actually started off on 5 acres in California and started with dairy cows right away, and it was a big mistake. So I just now recently in the past few years got cows back to my farm, but you don't have to have all the animals. You can figure out what works best for you. I have some people that make fun of me because I'm not a goat fan, but goats work for, they're loving their goats. But basically you want to run your ruminants through first to graze, and then you can run pigs next if you have them, but then afterwards take your poultry through that same area, and the poultry scratch, peck, dig, get rid of a lot of the bugs that the cows and stuff left, and then you basically want to leave that space completely empty for a good few months to give it a rest. And then in that aspect you're breaking your parasite cycle, and you shouldn't have to worm unless you see a problem. A lot of times when people start having the parasite problems, it's because their animals have been in a space too long, right? Or are not being able to find the nutrients that they need in their graze. When you start getting bare, you want to move on to the next spot, unless you're trying to do something like this to where you just need to clear it out completely. But on top of that, the chickens are going to be adding the nitrogen back into the ground as they're scratching it, and they compost it so much faster. On top of doing the things like the rabbit tractors, it's like even if you have raised cages for rabbits or quail or anything like that, you can turn that compost probably twice a year, a lot faster than you can with a shovel or a composting machine, because those chickens will be sitting there turning all that hay and poop and all the scraps that you throw in there, and they'll turn it into gold for your garden really fast. And it works out good on your timeline too, to where you can pull some out in the spring for your spring garden, and then a few months later pull some out for your summer or fall garden, and it'll be like black gold if you do it right. But everybody's land is different too, so what works best for him here is not going to work best for me. He's got more clay, I've got more sand, that kind of thing. So when people start asking questions about how often you're supposed to move and that kind of thing, it's really going to depend on how much land you have, how many animals you have, what kind of soil you have, and what kind of things you have growing. And did we pass your cover crops already? Oh
no, yeah, they're over
yeah.
there.
He's got some cover crops growing over there. Kind of want it anywhere that you have bare soil, you want to be doing something with, unless you're getting ready to plant out and map a garden. But he actually has some turnips and other cover crops growing right behind this hill, just to keep the soil in place, but also to have more food for his livestock, so he can go around and harvest for the family and harvest for the animals as well, which is real food in real form, which I preach about all the time. If you can get more of that and less of the pellet, it saves you money and it gives you a better end product, either as soil in your garden or meat for your family. So it's really, really important to look into regenerative permaculture, rotational graze, and figure out what's best for your land. So, I mean, a lot of times the first question people ask is, well, how long do I leave them in one place? And it's so hard to answer because everybody's in such a different place on their property. But definitely use the Premier fencing, because you're not going to have a beautiful garden like that if the goats get to it, right? And I actually have my garden a 50 by 50 space with standard 2x4 wire around it, but then we have hot wires going around for different paddocks for all of our livestock all the time, is getting moved around too. So, but you can grow great soil. I mean, look at the leaves on those strawberries, you guys. You can't get that just from throwing it in some negative soil and hope that it's going to do well for you. So building soil, I would say, is the most important thing. I mean, we need to be not pushing off our topsoil by tilling and just adding to it with the livestock instead. How'd I do?
I'm sorry the roosters were. I hope they didn't grow over you or mess you up too much.
I always lose my voice after one of these events, but
they're not used to so many people.
my turkeys usually do that. I had a class last weekend, and every time I tried to talk, my turkey gobbled over me. So.
No, you did great. That's great information. Thank you. Any questions about any of this stuff so far? Any parts you couldn't hear because of all the roosters and dogs and children? You want me?
Are you all able to feed your animals just with forage, just what you grow right there?
No, we still have to
pellet?
supplement some too, especially in the winter. Yeah, I know, like I'm buying quite a bit of hay in the winter, and then some grain. Like we're not. We'll talk more about our mix when we get over there, but we're doing a mix of different stuff, not just grain. A little bit of grain, but we're doing a mix of different stuff.
We're working on feed dependency, but we are still hay dependent in the wintertime. I'm working on a plan for that, but my goal is to be 100% feed freedom, and we do a fodder mix for winter, but this time of year I try not to feed anything but mineral tub and hay on the milking stand.
It depends on where they are. Like half of our goats are out here on like 3 acres that's heavily wooded, so they don't really get any extra food at all. They just get minerals.
And it takes a while to get to that point. So you always want to do what's best for your animal with what you have. Depending on how much land you have, you can develop feed freedom, but it does take a lot of work, and it's one of those things to where time is money and money is time, so you have to decide what your goals are. So.
Any other questions about this stuff?
They're just all enjoying the shade.
What is in here?
These are all strawberries.
Yep, I mean the soil. Is it your soil mix and stuff?
Nope,
or?
I didn't. This was an experiment of just see what happens if I just let chickens and pigs run this for a solid 5-6 months. Like it was well fertilized. Now I probably brought in a load of llama poop. I don't see it here. Definitely on the other side I did it. You can see it over there. I probably brought in a load of compost too and tilled that in. I definitely did that. Anywhere that I built the garden areas, I brought in one gorilla cart worth of compost and dumped that, and that made an 8x4. That's basically how I tried to visualize these for like 8x4-ish, right? And that's basically all we did on these. So we'll see how they do. I have these that don't have much going on, and then those that I'm like fertilizing and like taking care of, and I'm seeing how they. I'm always trying different things to see how things work out. So
you have to be willing to experiment, right?
Very smart way to build soil. And we're actually doing this on a much larger scale on our property to open up a whole nother garden space. And we've been keeping pigs on that space for way longer than they should be, just because we want all the weed seeds gone. We want all of the fertilization. We'll run the birds through it for a good couple months and do the same. And in that aspect, you definitely have to have outside feed sources because we're taking it all away from them. So, I mean, we'll supplement with whey. We do have one outside source of beer grain that the pigs will get when I have them on bare grounds like this. But this is the best way for you to open up garden space without tilling, as you're adding nutrients to the soil instead of ruining the microbes by tilling them up, and you're getting rid of all of the seeds and stuff in the process. So it works really, really good to open up new spaces. Then you're utilizing your animals in a different way, and then they definitely need to be supplemented when they're on bare space like this. But I was over here one time, and Carrie was dumping kitchen scraps out the window, and I started cracking up because, I mean, like, that's real food in real form too, and I'd much rather see that kind of thing. You know, if you can, I always say that eggs and milk are the heart of every single person's farm. If you can do eggs and milk, you have a lot of supplementing right there that you don't have to outsource. But it just depends on how much space you're giving your animals too. So, but this is the smartest way to open up new garden space for sure.
all right, so let's go this way and let's go.
But this was all wooded. I mean, it's still quite wooded, but you couldn't see through there at all.
You couldn't even see to it because this was all like, this was really the chaos of it. These baby goats don't really know people as much as the ones on the other side.
Can I help you? That's my foot in there.
Where's Carrie back here yet? Carrie, you want to talk about goats?
So my favorite goat, I baby him. He's my baby.
Here, come over here, babe.
He is, he's a La Mancha, and just the sweetest guy ever. He's our buck that we have. I love La Manchas. They are the ones that look like they have no ears. It's really interesting, but they're the sweetest. And then this guy is what's called a wether, which means he cannot have babies anymore. but he's a boy, so that way he won't fight with a boo, because he's our one buck that we have. And then the other boys that we have are just our weathers. So he's his friend. And then we have our two babies over here. These are two Nubian babies. We have them separated from their mom right now because we're going to be showing you milking with her. So
She wouldn't have any milk if we,
yeah,
if we didn't separate
if I didn't
her.
pull her. So yeah, these are her babies, and you'll see how big that they get because she's quite large. So
She's a tall girl.
yeah.
These babies haven't been around people as much. We have other babies that will love you.
Yes.
I promise. We'll go over there in a minute. These babies don't know people very well.
Yeah, we have some babies that we got as babies, so we would have had to bottle feed them. So, and Abu is one of them that we got him actually as a rescue, and he had quite a bit of health issues, but we nursed him back to
He
health.
lived in the house with us for like 2 months.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
we had to
was
train him on to
super
be a goat. It took a while.
Yeah.
Well, we
but
didn't
he's
train
been-
him like the other goats trained him.
Now he's king.
Yeah, I know. He's
He's out there with sheep somewhere.
and he got to cut the ribbon at Citadel Park for their farmers
Yes.
market. So we're gonna write a children's story about that goat.
That would be fabulous.
It's the perfect. I've got all the pictures too. Like one of him downtown, like the Devon Tower in the background. He's just smiling. Because I wish you could see him right now. He smiles all the time. Where is he?
So the other thing that I love about the Spinmore's farm is they're recycling and utilizing old materials instead of making everything brand new and fancy, because I promise you one thing that you will learn when you're homesteading is you can spend a lot of money on something and 3 months from now you may want to have a completely different goal and plan in mind. Things are constantly changing. You're always reevaluating your goals and what's going to work for your farm. So if you can use recycled materials to build your lean-tos and sheds for your livestock, I say you do it and go for it, because the fancy chicken tractor or chicken coop at Tractor Supply is going to be ruined way faster than something like this, right? They're not made well. And like I said, especially if you're rotational grazing, you need things that you can either move around easy or throw together to where you have enough in different locations, which is kind of what we do. We just build small little lean-tos like that in different sections so we can just run our wires around it for different animals at different times. And he'll actually show you some really cool stuff that he built on the other side as well, just all from recycled stuff that he can find and use. The other thing is she mentioned a weather. If anybody's interested in more having goats, it's really, really good to have a weather at all times, so that way when you need to separate your buck, he always has a friend, and he won't be nearly as miserable and challenging fence lines and stuff if you always have a weather with him for times that you need to separate.
Well, Abu is out there somewhere.
Oh, one other thing I want to talk about. So feeding and stuff like that. So the goats that are out here, we really don't supplement much at all. They're getting all their food from out there. We're giving them some minerals. We do have to be careful on the minerals with these goats because there's sheep in here somewhere too. And if sheep get too much copper, it'll kill them. So you got to be really careful with making sure the sheep can't get to the minerals. So when we have them in here, we have them like up on top of the area where the sheep can't get to, and secured so that the goats don't knock it off. Like there's a lot of things you got to factor.
Here comes your pig.
I hear pig coming.
Yeah.
Penelope, where is everyone?
We also cohabitate, and it works out really well for the smaller homestead hogs. That's kind of why we stick to them. And the really awesome part is the goats and the sheep will take care of the graze, but Penelope will go in there and get all of the bugs and the grubs and the acorns and everything else that the goats and the sheep don't eat. So if you can get everybody to get along, it works well to have them all together symbiotically like that too. Only time I would say not to have pigs in with goats and sheep is during delivery time. So they'll smell blood and then they'll get a little bit
So we have like a separate goat area you'll see here in a little bit where we have all the goats that are either like close to giving birth or like after the babies are born. These goats just came over here last week. So they'll be over there like for most of the time. And then
last time I was here, we got to see a baby be born.
the goat from a goat that we got from you.
Yeah, that was really cool because he was wanting to show her to me and we couldn't find her. We walked around the corner and I was like, she's in labor. I kind of hung out and got to watch all the kids' excitement with the baby being born.
So let's talk about pigs now.
Penelope. Is she the same as the pigs over here? She is an American mini pig.
I'm gonna go in with the pigs I love that love me too. These pigs, I tried so hard to get them to love me. So let me tell a story about these pigs. When we got here, we we're silly, first of all. We didn't know as much about pigs. Not that we know everything now, but we didn't know anything then. And I thought that if I put a little cattle panel area, it would hold them. So these little pigs ran immediately through the cattle panel. And then that was the first day of my week-long vacation from work, and we spent the first 4 days chasing them all day.
Non-stop.
Through the woods, up and down with nets, diving for them, and then finally I gave up and said, fine, just do whatever you're going to do. And then they started hanging out with the sheep on their own. They came in through, they could go through this fencing too, because they were really, for the distance
They were
they
tiny.
went
Yes,
through,
it was
tiny.
this. Yeah,
They were
tiny.
jumping through it. So anyway, they just started hanging out with the sheep, and then they got too big to get out. So now we have a relationship where, like, we both know they could leave if they wanted to. They're choosing to be here. They're not my pets. They've made it clear. So
One
they
thing I
won't
always
hardly
tell
let me
everybody
pet
about
them. Like, I've tried everything, but these pigs over here love me. So let's talk about that.
Anytime you're wrangling pigs, you have to know it has to be their decision and not yours.
Back up in the shoulder.
No, I know, not an Ewok, I know, but like they kind of look like a mix between, so I had Star Wars things going. And then Hershey was a cow. So I love these pigs so much. So let's talk about, where's Blaze? Where's
Right here, right here.
Just move. Yep, I didn't care. Blaze had some with wattles and some didn't. And it's just, I guess some people like pay extra for it. I don't know why. It's just
For the waddle?
Breed standards.
It's just a fancy thing,
There's
yeah.
2 registries, and one acknowledges wattles and one will not. So it's just preference.
look how sweet
I've
she
actually
is.
heard, as far as if you're raising them for meat, that the ones without wattles will actually grow faster. I've not really seen if that's technically true or not, but
So our pigs, so let's have the conversation.
let's
now.
do it,
So
Dale.
our
let's do it.
pigs, when we moved in here, we kind of had this like ideology of, okay, now that we have acreage, if we're gonna eat chicken, I'm gonna grow it and I'm gonna kill it myself. If I'm gonna eat pork, I'm gonna grow it and kill it myself. So we got pigs, and then I haven't had pork anymore. I've had to stop eating it. And for me, it was a trade-off of, am I willing to have this dude die in order for me to eat? And my answer to that is no, but other people have other, like, I respect everyone. Like, I'm not saying you should do anything. I'm just saying I've had a lot of ham in my life, and my karma debt for ham is pretty offset. I got to work it off for a while. Because I had a ham sandwich like twice a day for like several years as a kid. So I just feel like I've had enough ham. I'm good with stopping now and eating more fish. So that's just kind of like where I am in my life. So, and these are my therapy pigs, I guess is the way to put it. Like if I code all day and I come out here and I sit right here and these pigs come up and crawl over me and like they're my homies. So now I will say we had one boy pig that we brought in to try and introduce, and he was a conniving little jerk and I could have eaten him. So I'm not like against eating all pigs. I just need to meet the pig first and verify that he's a jerk and he deserves to die. And then I'll eat him. So at one point, if we have a batch of pigs and there's one jerk pig, then I'll eat them. But then it's just, like I gotta tell, what have I gotta tell to Mookie, you know? I mean, like so anyway.
I think that
Now tell your side, Blaze.
his response to that is actually what you're seeing on social media a lot right now is the eat less meat, saying, and that goes a long way, and I respect that. I think that is the way he just explained it is probably the smartest thing for people that can't do that. I came to a different conclusion, but for the same reasons, really, because I wanted to make sure that my livestock has a good life before they nourish my family. And so I do the deed. I raise all of my own meat, and we're actually 90% plus meat eaters on my farm. But the reason I am able to do it is because I know my livestock has the best life and they have one really bad day and then they nourish and fuel my family in a really good way. We were talking about this before the class though, and it's like it's interesting to see people come to the different.
Sorry,
They don't like what I'm talking
Carrie
about.
just bombed your talk.
I'm so sorry. Here.
Ooh, scraps. So, and you know what Dale's doing right now? That is the way pigs used to get fed on the family farm. Everybody owned a pig just to get rid of their garden scraps. They were never meant to have a lot of corn and soy feed on a daily basis. they were meant to be your garbage disposal, and that's actually, not to get into religion and politics, but that's actually how they got a bad rap for being a negative meat, is because they ate garbage. But in all honesty, they're better off eating real food in real form than they ever were meant to be fed a crumble of high corn and soy, and that's why their omegas got unbalanced in the meat process. But Dale and I did talk about this before the class, and I think that you come to your own conclusion, but the bottom line is you can eat less meat or you can eat more meat, but I'm just asking everybody to eat it ethically and raise it sustainably. Anytime we buy meat from the grocery store, we are buying animals that suffered cruelty in their life, and that does not help the problem with vegans versus meat eaters. We should be educating people on doing it right, and then making that decision for themselves, whether it's eat less meat or eat more meat.
Yeah, so I think ultimately we agree.
Yeah.
We're not going to eat meat unless it comes from that source.
Right. And you do eat, you guys have butchered chickens.
Yes. Yeah, we have about 30 chickens in the freezer still from last year.
And it is hard, you guys. It's not an easy thing to do. But
unless you got a jerk rooster.
Yeah.
It's jerk physics or jerk philosophy, whatever.
I don't not feel when I put my animals down, but then I also feel like I can validate that with giving it a really good life, utilizing everything from nose to tail, and making sure that it never left my farm in the process and didn't have that stress of having to go to a processor.
Yep.
So but we love this breed of pig too. Whether you're going to raise it as a pet, a stress animal. My stress animals are my cows. So I get what Dale's saying about the pigs. Like you bond with specific animals. Clearly for me, it's not goats. But yeah, I think if I was going to have to start and do it all over again, I should have started with butchering a goat, because that would have been the way.
There have been a few goats I could have butchered. Yeah.
But yeah, and he's just taken up fishing for that same reason. You know, you got to be comfortable with where your meat comes from, and if this isn't for him, like, I respect that completely. Like, he started in the process and realized that these are his stress animals, and I respect that he's not eating pork anymore. I think that's so much smarter than just going and buying a pork chop without even having any kind of thought to it as to what kind of life it received before that. So
I don't like turkeys or chickens though, so I'm fine with eating them. So thankfully, I'm glad.
Yeah.
Now Carrie, on the other hand, is going to talk about her chickens, and she's about to go pescatarian, I think. Every time she eats a chicken leg, I can see her looking at it like, who were you? What was your name?
So most of their large animals they are utilizing just for farm clearing and for supplementing soils in the gardens and stuff. That's totally okay, especially because they have this amazing life. If anybody wants to ask me questions later more on the butchering part, I did get my event list posted today on my farm page for our butchering classes. We always do those in the fall, and it's not just learning how to do the deed, it's talking about the ethical part of it and making sure, like I always say, if I don't ever feel something, then I'm doing it wrong and I'm doing it too much. So anybody that's really on edge about trying to do it but they're curious, then you can come talk to me about it and I can kind of give you more information, because it's not just here's how you break down a pig, it's here's how you raise it right, and here's how you rationalize it in your brain, and here's how you cry it off and thank it for its service, on the day of. So you come to different conclusions in different ways, but I think the best thing about Dale and I knowing each other and talking about this kind of stuff is there's so many argumentative keyboard warriors in our world right now that it's okay that we can disagree and still be friends and learn from each other. I was so excited to come here and learn about the gardening especially, and I was really, really happy and had no doubt that they were going to give the animals a great life. So it's exciting to see him grow. And
thanks for everything you've taught us. Seriously,
your pigs are really fat, just so you know.
Hey, I mean, aren't they supposed to be? I mean,
what is the one up front? What is her name?
That's Charlotte.
Charlotte is a bit overweight.
She came from the shelter. She has PTSD. She has issues. Okay, you should have seen how they put her in the trailer. They dragged her by her hind legs into the trailer, so we got off to a rough start to begin with. Yeah. So I had to give her a lot of apples and bananas to bribe her. I overestimated how many I should give her, and now she doesn't do anything, but she's happy. So let's go meet Charlotte, and then Carrie will talk about her chickens.
Yes. She's a sweet girl. She's a pot-belly pig. So we got her from the shelter, and she's been here at least a year now with us. But she's so sweet. Her favorite thing is belly rubs. I know. She's got a food problem. She's working on it. She just doesn't do much. The other pigs work a lot and like dig things up. She lays around and rolls in the mud.
She gets nervous from a lot of people, so she
Yeah.
takes her own. Do you hear her right now? They have their own language. Like I'm still trying to crack it. Like that sound generally tells her hi.
I hope you guys all follow him on Instagram. Follow the whole family on Instagram because they make the most hilarious animal videos.
See, she's mad.
If anybody has scraps, Charlotte would love it too.
I should have kept some of
Because
that.
he dumped it all for the other piggies. I'm sorry, Charlotte. That's why she's mad at you.
She's just mad at me. She doesn't get mad at you. It's just me. She's a teenager. Oh, you brought scraps. Charlotte! Can I pretend that I gave these to her? Charlotte, I got something for you.
Daddy's got some food for you.
Charlotte, look. Hey.
And she likes to swim. She has kiddie pools.
The kiddie pools are amazing for the smaller size pigs.
Hey,
Charlotte.
pig. Come on. There. We're your friends now? Okay.
I know.
She was our first pig. We had no intention of getting a pig at all. And then the Oklahoma City Animal Shelter posted about her and like had a really good post and talked about how much she loved belly rubs. We were sold. And there's a ring video of me trying to like ride her around here because we got her out of the trailer and she took off running. And I'm trying to like direct her into the area. It was intense.
You hear her chewing? Not very polite, but
She's a good pig.
On too.
Alright, you want to talk about chickens, Carrie? So we have like two different chicken. They're almost like different animals here. So we have the pet chickens, and then we have the free range chickens. Carrie, talk about your pet chickens.
so in here, this is the silky area. So we have a bunch of silkies, and then there's also we have a couple ducklings. And then I have some Polish chickens too. We have the poofy head, and then an Appenzeller Spitzhauben, which is very similar, kind of poofy hair. They just all look small. They're all bantam chickens, so they're going to be really small.
Half these have names. I'm not even kidding you.
They do. Most of them are all named. Mary comes in here all the time and plays with them. So yeah, these primarily we just hatch out, or I mean we do take their eggs and eat them also. They are a lot smaller, but they still taste amazing. They're just not quite as large as the other ones.
A great pickled egg. Great snack.
Yeah, for
Yes.
hard-boiled eggs, they taste
Yeah.
better. Because like the
Yeah.
big ones, like when you like just aren't as good like the hard-boiled eggs, but these are really good.
Are you using the pack and play as a brooder?
Yes, so the pack and play, we actually
I have
just
two of them,
brought,
but
yeah,
I
we
was
just
just about to
brought some
get rid of
moms back in here because we had them in, they were hatching out eggs in there, so we moved them into the pack and play and put them in our shop so they'd be safer. And then
Okay.
we just brought them back in here and let them out. So that's where they hatched their eggs and all that, and then we let them out back in here.
I usually leave it in there for like a week or two afterward because then the babies have somewhere to go hide underneath. and the other
Right.
ones can't get to them. But they also have that IBC tote they do that with.
Okay.
So that's why we left it in there because we used to have pigs in here too. And then there was a tragedy. So Chewy's got in trouble and she's still mad about it. But anyway, they're out and now we left it in there because the chickens go underneath of it and the adults go inside of it sometimes too. We had geese in here, then they got mean on us, so now they're in the backyard and we're negotiating with them on a treaty.
And you're opening up this space for growing, and they're going to move here next.
Yeah,
Yep.
so all we're like, our hope is by the end of the year we can have a big greenhouse running this way and grow in the ground, like right. So they're gonna build it all for us. So we've got this side built. That's just kind of Charlotte's area, and then this will be the next area they go to build gardens for us.
Yeah, these birds used to be over there, and then once we opened up that garden area, we just kind of moved them down. Now they're working on this area.
And we're not eating any of these.
No. Just their eggs and that.
Yeah.
They're pets.
Now the other chickens, every other chicken you see around is free range. So we have some that like live in here, but they can get out, but they stay in there. But anyway, they just kind of go wherever they want, do whatever they want. They eat a bunch of bugs, they protect the garden. We don't know how many we have. I don't know. They live, they sleep different places. Like they're our experiment on what happens if you release a bunch of chickens and let them do whatever they want. So it's going well so far. Yeah.
Do you have problems with predators of different kinds, birds that eat them, or if they're running around loose, maybe you don't know. But
Yeah, so we have a bunch of roosters and the geese in between all of them. Like they're watching the skies.
Okay.
So whenever there's like a predator, like they have a certain call they'll do. And I'm convinced you can make an app to decipher this because they have different calls for different things. And I want to make Google Translate for chickens, basically. But different breeds have different ones, so then you got to like record 100 different chicken breeds, and like that's where that gets complex. But the idea of it isn't too bad. So they call them all to protection. So we have that, and then Frosty covers the back half. So for predators coming that way, hopefully Frosty's going to scare them off. We have 2 German Shepherds in the back half of the property that also we let run loose sometimes with this. Like they're still eat chickens every now and then.
I feel like livestock guardian dogs are so important. They have the llamas too, which do help, but livestock, I can't. We're a lot more wooded even than this, and I can't do it without my 4 dogs. Like there'd be no way. But I have one that I can say look, and he's chasing hawks in circles. My friend brought a drone over the other day, and he almost had a heart attack. He was just so upset. But they're all. Each dog works. You know, once you get one trained really, really good, he will train the rest, and they all have their different aspects of what they're good at. And I mean, they'll drive you crazy until you get them trained well, but that's on us, and that really, really helps with predator issues, sky and land.
And also they're marking their scents everywhere they go too. So me just even letting them, like the German Shepherds, run around the property, you know, at night to go to the bathroom and all that kind of stuff. They're marking all their scents and everything, and that's going a long way too.
coyotes smell that.
Yeah. And then these fences too, like pretty much every chicken when it comes to nighttime finds inside of a fence that they go to naturally, because they saw what happened to their friends who stayed in that tree over there. So
we do a lot of free ranging too, and I love that he said that, because I mean it's perfect proof that we overfeed our livestock like crazy, but we help at their detriment. Because I mean, you can throw them some seed and scratch, but they can survive and have been doing this way longer than we have. So free range is the way to go if you really want to get into feed freedom and stuff. But like he said, even scent. When we first bought our 20 acres, we had a bobcat problem right away. Got it. My dog had 1 coyote pinned, got it, and since then we've not had any large predators. We see them on our game cams on the back pasture and stuff, but they know to stay away from where the dogs patrol.
And part of the philosophy too is like Carrie and Mary really love these chickens, right? So these are the sacrificial chickens that are running wild. So if a predator comes in, I'm not going to have them crying over a dead chicken in here. It's going to be like dinner if it's still remnant, you know, like it's. I got a lot of daughters. I got to mitigate emotions around here. So, okay. So let's go hug some goats. You know,
The poultry netting, I believe, is the most expensive one.
yeah, it's like 180 for the poultry for 160 feet, and then the other one is 164 for 160 feet.
And I personally do not recommend Premier One solar battery. We had really bad luck with it. He's got electric. I did get one solar at Tractor Supply that had really good reviews, so we'll see on that one. But we actually use the chargers with a marine battery, and we have 4 or 5 marine batteries, and we just go swap them out and recharge them. And those give a lot more zap than the solar do.
Yeah, we have solar ones, but they're not being used right now because they weren't strong enough. So if it's just one area, like Charlotte here, hers is solar, that's fine for one little area. But I've got way too many chained together out there, and I've got brush up and on it. Like if there's nothing touching it, it's like 14 volts, and right now it's probably like 11 with stuff on it.
And once you give them a good zap, you will hardly have them plugged in half the time anyway.
It's really predators you worry about, so it's just nighttime. And they have ones that only come on at night too, so if you're worried about your kids in it during the day, you don't have to
Well
manage
worth
all
the
that.
money. It is an investment, but it's well worth it.
You
Got it?
I can give refills too.
I love goat naming. It's like, what was it? 12 weeks? 12 weeks.
Kenzie.
You just got banned.
Oh, hello.
Dusty. He was born in a rainstorm, so Yeah, still milk for like a year.
I was holding mine in my hand.
Right here. Now we have a baby, Jeff. Is the little black one. Is
I'll talk about
one. So he's a mini Lamont.
Yeah.
That's part of why we had different varieties. We wanted to try
You can come out.
You like your goats? You want to see a goat? Pull one to you.
Oh, you got two goats.
So many friends.
Oh, that one has other friends already, Mom.
Hello.
That's not any good, huh?
Pickle says, feed me. And this one says, feed me. Hey, feed me too.
Lisa's due any day. Lisa Marie Presley. We had Michael Jackson for a while, but he's gone.
You like that? Is that cool?
Somebody better feed that duck.
Where's the duck?
Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to hit you.
Wow.
So the food that you guys all have, it's a mixture that we make ourselves. So it's a little bit of allstock, and then we have timothy grass pellets, oats, sunflower seeds, and some beet pulp also. And then for the moms, like whenever we nurse them, we also add in some like alfalfa pellets too. Give them a little bit extra.
Gary, you want to talk about the different breeds and like the crossbreeding that we're doing?
Yeah, so this one right here is Delilah. She is a mix of a pygmy and a Nigerian dwarf, which are both really tiny breeds, so that's why she's small. She's an adult. And then this right here, this is Lisa. She is very pregnant. As you can see, she's got some milk there coming in. So she is due any time now.
She's a Nubian.
Yeah, she is a Nubian.
So she'll get the size of this one.
Yes, this is Buttons over here. She's the one we're going to take over and milk.
She doesn't like strangers.
Yeah, she has to be by herself.
Just we all are here. She's going back with her baby, so don't leave. Don't worry. She'll headbutt you if not, though.
So these guys, so this right here is Thumper. He is a Nigerian dwarf. And then this is his half-brother, which is a dwarf and a Nubian mix. And then we have Jasmine right here. She's a La Mancha. She's just like the ones that we were trying to call out there.
There's her baby Jeff.
Yes, this is her baby, Jeff. He is a mini La Mancha. So his mom is a La Mancha and his dad was a Nigerian dwarf. So he's going to be smaller than her. So he's going to be a dwarf.
But these are the ones that look like they don't have ears.
Exactly, yes.
Wow, I wasn't quite sure what you meant by that.
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah.
There you go.
Now he's a cross, so he has more ears than they typically do.
Yeah.
The white one that's around here somewhere.
Casper. Over there.
Come here, buddy. I gotta grab you.
We do, yeah. Oh, thank you. You want more? Sorry.
Oh, this one.
This is Casper.
So he's no ears.
Yeah, completely no ears. Yes. They all do unless you get them either disbudded or something whenever they're young.
I got two goats trying out
So
mine.
why are you crossbreeding to make smaller?
So we just prefer the smaller breeds because we have smaller kids too. So instead of having like these giant goats around, we figure it would be a little bit better and
Cheaper
easier.
to eat less food.
Yeah,
They
it's
can't
easier
get
for
it.
the kids to handle and
Less
manage.
bits damage too.
Yes.
Will they provide
Three trying to get
Oh yes. Yeah.
And the nice thing too is like Nigerian dwarves have really sweet milk, whereas La Manchas make milk for a long time. Whereas Nubians make a bunch of milk, like while they're producing. So like crossing those together, we're hoping to get like the aspects of each that are good. And you never know what you're gonna get, but that's now we got all boys this round.
Right
So,
now I have Eager goats, which is actually miniature Nubians crossed with Nigerian. Nigerian or pygmy. So it's basically a shorter, stockier meat milk combo. And she gives us a decent amount of milk. And I'm actually leaving babies on. I'm sure they're doing the same. Leaving babies on, separate them at night, milk in the morning, and then the babies get to go back with the mom all day. It makes your life a lot easier too, because then you can still go on vacation for a weekend and put the babies back in. But the taller goats are great for foraging and clearing land because they can get up a lot higher. But they're also a lot, like you said, they eat a lot more and they do more damage. So
And Nubian boys are annoying. They are always trying to get out, and they're just. I don't mind the Nubian girls as much, but the Nubian boys, I can't handle them.
I don't know how much. I know my female that I'm milking right now, I probably get a quart every morning. When I was milking buttons, I was getting close to a gallon a day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is quite a difference.
And you have to milk them every day?
You don't have to if you just leave their babies on them.
Yeah. That's the great thing
And
about
usually,
mom
I mean, if you want to get milk, you have to keep milking though, right?
Yeah. Even on, so I'm actually milking 3 cows right. Well, I will be milking 3 cows and I'm milking a goat. So I actually schedule it to where my husband works 3.5 days a week. I'll milk the goat on the days that he works, and on the days that he's home to do the rest of the chores, I milk the cows. So I don't have to commit to any. I can take a week off as long as I have that baby to put back on the mama. It makes your life a lot less. Because that's the thing is when people start thinking about wanting milk, they think that they're bogged down to their farm, and it's no more than having to feed the chickens every day. As long as you keep a baby, you can milk when you want to and don't milk when you don't feel like it, and it's awesome. It's really, really awesome. It's better for the babies too.
Hey. Y'all stop fighting.
It's better for the babies to stay with mom for as long as possible. You're going to end up with a healthier animal regardless. So.
How old will they continue to nurse?
Well, the Mantises will go for like up to 2 years. That's why we like that breed. And then the Nubians, she nursed for almost a full year. Basically until they get pregnant again. And then then they start stopping.
We want to try and give them a break before they kid again.
And I don't want to jump ahead to where you may be going to address this, but you mentioned something about vacations.
Yeah.
Are you paying for the next one?
That depends on the answer. So, you know, we're at the investigation stage.
Yeah.
And so really we have 2 pressing questions. One is, at 54 and having never done any of this, am I absolutely crazy for thinking about doing this?
It'll keep you young. My husband's about to turn 50. I'll always be younger, but it will keep you young. I feel, and I think Dale has a lot to say about this as far as like how it helps your mental health. It definitely helps my mental health to be outside in the sun. This past year has been a testament to our life has not changed much compared to most, and the reason is because of the farm and because we don't have outside inputs to stress about. At the beginning of COVID, I don't know if you guys got to see this, but I remember running to the feed store for dog food, which is kind of funny because my freezer's still full of meat bones if I really needed them for my animals, but the livestock feed was empty for a minute. That didn't affect me because I have all of this going on, right? So I feel like it keeps you young and your animals will thrive better if they're not super dependent. So it's the same thing, like you feed yourself more, you're getting exercise in the first place. Everybody knows I'm very anti-grain, but I always say if you want to go out and grow that wheat and grind it and make bread, do it, because you're going to get a lot of physical activity involved and you're going to eat a lot less, right? Because you know how hard it is to make that loaf of bread. And just like the pig thing, if you choose to eat it, you're going to appreciate it 100 times more because you did the work, and that's what's going to keep you physically fit and you a lot longer than the rest of the people that are sitting down watching TV all day long.
Gotcha.
So I think it's smart.
Cool. So are we crazy at this stage of life to do
We're
this?
all crazy, but...
Well, yeah, or we wouldn't be here. I'll give you that. And then secondly, what about vacations? As wonderful as this really does seem, what is a vacation? Is it 2 days? Is it a week? Is it and again, if I'm jumping the gun, I'll stop and let you address that later.
So we moved in at the start of COVID, so we didn't go anywhere for a year. So then it was easy. We're about to take our first big vacation. Luckily, we have some neighbors that are pretty good friends that know have lived this kind of lifestyle too.
Yeah.
There's ways that I could automate things around here too to make that a little better, like some of the watering and stuff. Like for me, like the morning chores of having to come out here is cathartic for me. Like I need that. Because some days I need something to get me out of bed, and the fact that these animals rely on me like forces me to get out of bed. And by then, 5 minutes into being out here, I'm feeling better, right? So I don't automate a whole lot because of that, but I could. And I'm working towards that. Duck, calm down. So that's what we're working towards is automating now, because we've been moving around. Like we didn't know where everything was going to be. We're just now kind of getting to the point where we know where everything is going to be and stuff. So we're going to start doing more automation of watering and stuff like that. Again, relying on neighbors. Like I don't know if you don't have that kind of option. I don't know, but if you just had, like, if you started off with just chickens, like those chickens will be fine for a while without you. If you just have a good water source that isn't one that gets dirty, like you fill that enough, you have enough food in there, like they'll be fine without you. You get a coop that automatically opens.
I actually just had a friend share a picture with me on how they feed their pigs when she works. She's a away from home nurse, and she actually hooked up a deer feeder to shoot feed into the to the pen once a day. So there's lots of options. These are actually my neighbors right here, Carrie and Jeremiah, and they've watched my farm for me. He's talked about automation. Before I talk about vacations, I want to say something about that. Automation is a double-edged sword, because the more you automate, the less time you feel like you have to spend outside, and that's when crap goes wrong. So I talk about that at my fodder and food foresting class. If your animals are non-dependent, then you can get away a lot easier. When you set up sprinkler systems and those things don't work while you're on vacation, and you're like, oh, I don't have to go out first thing because everything's all set up, then that's kind of when, I mean, I feel like if I don't have my eyes on animals every single day, then there's a cow out or something's wrong. Something's gonna die on my clock. So you gotta be, I want life to be easier too. You just really gotta balance it, because I was saying I had a really bad day the last few days, and we create problems sometimes when we're trying to solve them. I put a shipping container next to my garden, and it is now a haven for something that is eating all of my tomatoes, right? I just created a animal-free zone around my house so that we could actually have gatherings without livestock, and now we're having major snake problems because the grass is a lot longer. So you just have to really think ahead. What is this going to solve, and what could it possibly make go wrong as far as the automation thing goes? The vacation thing, I have people ask me this weekly. I always say that it's a lot easier for a farmer to go on vacation in the winter. So our big week or so long vacations, we always try to plan in January, February, when things are a lot less happening. Like right now is a really hard time for farmers. We're all feeling the stress. We're all overwhelmed, and it's not a good time to go away. I went to California last weekend for a couple days and paid my daughter to watch the farm, and the first day before I even got off the plane, there was a snake in the house trying to get to my brooder. So that was, she'll probably say no now, and I'll be calling Carrie and Jeremiah again next time. All I say, find yourself a good farm helper. Hopefully it's a neighbor or a friend, and try and pay them as good as you possibly can, whether that's, you know, we all know what minimum wage is here. I say double or triple that if you can, and then if you can't, then double or triple that with milk and eggs and meat or whatever you can afford to tell them that they appreciate you, so hopefully they'll want to do it again. And barter and trade, because they want to go on vacation too, right?
Sure.
So there's always a way. I'm one of those people where I'm vacation or anything else, don't tell me I can't do something or incorporate it into my lifestyle. You just gotta find a way to do it. But definitely wintertime is our big. If I'm gonna go away for a week, it has to be wintertime, because I'll just have a nervous breakdown right now trying to get ready if I was trying to go out of town right now, right? Because of everything going on. But
you also make it a lot easier. So what you do every day is not what we do
Right.
when we come down.
That's definitely true. Make it easy. Because like I do the fodder and the rotational grazing, I'm not going to ask her to move my dang pigs every day, right? That might mean I'm going to go out and buy, like I say I'm feed freedom, but when I'm going to leave town, I'm going to go out and buy my non-GMO, no corn, no soy feed if I can find it. And then that way, you know, we usually try and fill up every single pen with as much food as possible, just to be like, you're cool for 2 days, you know, just go check on, and then it's basically just hopefully go feed the dogs and make sure people have, or everything has water. So make it easy for them, make it beneficial, either financially or food-wise or whatever, and then just be willing to do the same when they ask you back.
Makes sense.
So.
I do want to point out the different size of the eggs. We're talking about how the silky eggs were a lot smaller. So this is a silky egg compared to, you know, standard egg. So it's kind of hard to, you can kind of see. So they're still good to eat, it's just a lot less. And then we have some Easter eggers and olive eggers as well, so they give you some unique colors. And then this is a duck egg. So the ducks have huge eggs, so especially if you look at the silky egg. So there's a lot in that.
Do you get duck eggs every day?
He's not too scared.
We do from the ones over there.
Depends on the season.
This one is broody right now, so she's actually laying on it.
And the breed of duck. Like some ducks have like 300 days a year, some are 250.
Yeah.
It's less in the winter. It's also less once it gets hot because they go broody. So we didn't anticipate that as much of like, oh, the eggs stop in the summer. Like,
My ducks free range, so they don't cost me anything, but I gotta know where the nest is so I can get to the eggs before the...
that's what kids are good for. It's an Easter egg hunt every day. Go find the eggs, kids.
That's what we say too.
Yeah.
We've got 13 laying.
Whoa!
You gotta careful
It's
when you
all
walk,
gone.
dude.
I'm sorry. You ate enough, Mama. Yeah.
Any questions about anything?
Or give it to Isabel. Ask her.
Miss Buttons here.
Yeah.
Okay. Y'all want to...
So underneath the carport is where I have our milking station. So if everybody wants to head to the carport, and we'll bring her up there.
Charlie.
Don't let goats out. Question about the eggs. I said eggs and milk are the heart of your farm, especially as far as nourishing your other animals and livestock. Extra eggs, you will never see me selling eggs for $2 or $3 a dozen because I would much rather scramble them with shells on and throw them back to my birds or throw them to the pigs for nourishment. Dogs, and that's great for their coats. And then the same thing with Buttons here. If you don't drink that much milk and you're going to make cheese, you can always throw the milk and the cheese and the milk and the whey back to the pigs, and that's going to be giving them their lysine and their methionine, and it can even the probiotics in the milk will actually help prevent the probiotics in the milk right away will help prevent coccidia. We don't medicate unless we absolutely have to. And so if you start your chicks and birds on whey or milk on day 2 and beyond, you'll never see them get coccidia. It helps prevent it because it helps grow good probiotics into their system, and they can keep it from it.
Like which part are you using?
Whatever I have, yeah, you can use yogurt, whey, milk. I'll usually just put a separate pan in there for them and just let them go to town on it separately from their water. And if they need it, they'll go drink it. They love it. Let me get out of the way.
Yeah, so it's super easy. I mean, as you can see, like you just walk up and start squeezing, it comes right out. It's kind of, whenever we first started, it was a little challenging, but if you go like kind of above, and how we always describe it is if you're like icing a cake, you know those? And you like kind of push it down a little bit while you pull, and it comes right out. So she's an amazing milker. She gives us a lot of milk, and she's super easy. So if anybody wants to come up here and try milking her, feel free.
You got one right here?
Yeah. Okay, come here. So come right over here. She's up there. Put down. You want to go for your whole hand around.
You squeeze it pretty good.
Okay. Yeah, try your right.
You should see her babies. They're pretty rough on it.
Yeah, they are. So,
They headbutt it. You might want to try that.
squeeze it together. Pull down a little bit. Stand in line. There you go. Good. So she has the same mix as the other goats, but I added in some alfalfa for her too.
Yeah, come on up. I already said that.
Yeah. No, you're not getting in my car.
Yeah.
Because it's not your car. You don't have a license. You didn't pay your registration. Hey, somebody, are you on a truck?
She'll show you how. The girl right here in the blue shirt, she'll show you how.
Just put your head on it.
If you want to turn, stand on the line over here, baby girl.
Try to squeeze out the milk.
You did it.
Who's going to be the first one to drink it?
Got it, Elliot?
You did try? Yeah.
Good job.
Very good.
I want to try it if nobody
I'm sorry.
Sweet.
No.
It's good. Especially with ice cream. We make ice cream. Well, we've been no sugar for a while. Before those days, it was ice cream.
You can do it tomorrow.
It's very different.
Elliot, can you look back here?
Is that what you find too? I mean, is it
Every breed. Okay. So, like the Nigerians,
It's okay. You won't taste it. We're good. We're good.
we haven't had
It's okay. Do you want to try?
also.
He just moved her foot. You want to try? Come here. Just show you. Come right over here. You want to show that? You're
So I doubt that's it. But that is one thing, if you have your own goats, you gotta be careful of that.
Okay.
If you have a goat, you gotta
You're lefty. You want left or right?
Ask her if she can show you how she
So
does it.
right here. I know it's hard to say. So right here.
No. Although it kind of smells like cologne in a weird way.
Did you get some milk? Stop picking your nose.
Must milk. I'll pass.
I got it.
So grab a little bit higher.
Yeah, you did it.
You were just talking about how
Gonna do it one more time? Try and get your hand. Yeah. Okay. There you go.
Hold on. You can wait. You can do it after Sissy.
Try again. Just keep trying right there. Just have the right grip.
Come over here.
She'll pick up the scent of
Grab
that.
here.
But it's also kind of breed dependent. So the Nigerians are sweetest.
Here, open your hand.
Indians are pretty sweet too.
Pull down like this. You see?
We only got breeds that are supposed to be good tasting milk, but there are some other breeds that don't have milk tasting milk.
Once you get the hang
One
of
more time. Ready?
it's hard to get the hang of it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like, I'm not sure if
You wanna do it one more time?
milk and how the whole milk
Okay,
tastes. I
open.
think it's like heavier than that.
Squeeze
That's
your
the
hand.
thing too is you can-
down.
Oh, okay.
Or just that doesn't matter. Okay, you try that.
That's okay. You did it.
Sure you want
Then,
Yeah, right around.
Kenzie, come on. Let someone else have a turn.
Stuff like that.
So you know how to put icing on a cake?
I don't know if
Do you
you
know how
have
to do
any experience in that type of stuff.
Okay.
As far as
So you kind of
ice
push
cream
it
stuff,
down.
started
So when you
getting-
get down there.
we're using that.
Yeah, so sometimes if you go higher, you pull down.
Okay, you try now.
Ice cream, like,
Because some of it is all like up here, and that's. And adults can hop in here too. It's not just for kids. So if there's any adults that want to hop in there too.
we started growing.
I'll go ahead and save some milk for the adults.
Still growing.
You're gonna milk our goats, right? Good.
I'll,
Yeah, Berkey, here.
yeah, just gotta.
Feels like an airy rubber balloon.
I think I did a Calvin's when I was your age. I've never done
And then look at her teeth.
Good job, dear.
Are you already?
So that's how you can tell if she's loaded on milk.
So how far do you keep your bucks away from your
On the opposite side.
You just squeeze as hard.
Well, he's all the way on that side over there, and then the girl's over
Anybody
here.
else?
So.
You got me twice already.
No,
Good job.
Yeah, just completely circle. Yeah, exactly. It is. It's a lot easier than you think, right?
Yeah, well, but then again, it's already been started, so I guess it's.
Yes. So whenever you start, you kind of have to work it out.
Yeah, here it's like
Yeah.
barely touching it, it comes out, but yeah, sure.
That's kind of fun though. If you're like sisters next to you, you can like spray them. It's a
Yeah.
fun game.
Cats
They
will
do
hang
that.
around with you too. It's,
Do you just get one side, or do you typically do both sides?
It kind of just usually, yeah. So whenever she goes into heat, like she pretty much tells us when she's ready to be bred, and then whenever we notice that she's in heat, we'll put her with a buck, and then let her have babies.
And now that they have llamas, like I know.
So we just like to do it in the spring, or like have them have their babies in the spring, so that way it is nicer weather. We had some that had babies like earlier than we really wanted because she escaped, and so we had to like really be careful, like there's a snowstorm and stuff like that, like putting them up. So we try to do it so it's like March, April time period, so it's like a little bit out of the, like snow risk and things like
Wait long enough, you got the
that. Also too, and not just boom.
Yeah, that's stuff. We'll do it that way then. Yeah.
Yeah. You want to give it a try? No. Taking away pig food.
You got plenty of food.
dogs to drink it, I would take it inside, and then I have a filter that I run this through because, I mean, as you can see, like some of the signs for like her hair can get into it. So obviously we don't want to drink that. So I just run it through a filter, and then we drink it like that.
So any questions about anything y'all saw today?
Snakes. Do you have lots of them?
They're starting to become more active. The cats do a good job of helping keep them away. We've had a couple. So I killed one today.
Like in the house or?
Not in the house. Like in the hay. There's probably like 3 or 4 in that hay bale right now.
Okay.
And the hay bale's over there. Anytime I go to pick up the T-post driver, like one side of there generally, you know, like not always, but like pieces of cardboard on the ground, and you just gotta.
So far they've been younger ones.
When they're small enough, the chickens will attack them.
Yeah, exactly.
Them,
yeah, the chickens like will carry them in their mouth
and fight over them.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
Poisonous, non-poisonous, it's a mixture, I'm sure.
If you're scared of picking up snakes like we all are, there's this thing, handy.
Yeah.
And like you can kill it with it, which I mean, sorry, blood.
Snakes are my biggest predators this year. Out of everything, and my dogs will get them, but of course they can't get to them all the time. But we've had more snakes this year than we ever have, and unfortunately most of them are harmless, but once they know where the eggs and the baby chicks are, they just keep coming back. The last one that we got was probably about 5 or 6 feet long, and I couldn't figure out why. I think I had posted a picture on my Instagram or my farm page. It was going after eggs for a while, and then it switched to quail and baby chicks that were up off of the ground in some rabbit wire. I still don't know how the dang thing was getting in and out, but it got so big I don't think it could. It was trying to eat the birds, but it couldn't. And so I would go out to the pen, and you would just see slick-tracked heads, just kind of covered, like partially eaten. And my husband helped me. We actually went probably about 3 feet into a different pen right next to it in my milking station, and it was perched up high on a 2x4 waiting for Dark to go back and get more. So they'll keep coming back once they know it's easy food, so they just have to go, and 2 of my dogs are trained to get them. And we've had 2 poisonous snakes in the last 5 years that I've lived on the farm, and my dog did get bit. But I seen it happen. I slapped a poultice on her bite right away and gave her some Benadryl, and she was fine the next day, and she hates snakes even more now. So I can't keep her off of the snakes, but it is one of the more elusive predators to have to deal with just because it's not so obvious.
Keep things mowed, I mean, just like all the common sense stuff.
Yeah.
And I guess it sounds
mint around the house.
Mint?
They don't like mint.
Really?
So you can plant mint around areas you really don't want them to be.
And I guess this is obvious, but in theory you could have the right fencing, I guess, to keep them out of places like little small. No.
Some people do say that the bird netting works, and I've seen, you know, every time I post a picture of snake problem, everybody has a resolution, and I've tried every single one, and it has not worked for me. Some people are putting like bird netting, and they will get tangled up in it. I've seen pictures of friends that have had this happen. I tried it all last year and never caught a single snake, and still had them going in and stealing my eggs. We bought a minnow trap. That did not work. He said mint, and I did look at some snake away stuff at the store that was all natural, and it did have mint, cinnamon, and clove in it. So there are deterrents, but like he said, I really think like keeping the grass low, then at least the bigger birds can alert you. My turkey actually alerted me to one that I found. I was actually walking next to a woodpile, and like he said, you start learning your bird's language. I knew something was wrong immediately, and I stopped exactly where I was standing because I knew it was close, just the way the bird was acting, and I just started scrolling around where I was at, and it was literally 2 feet away from me. So had that been a poisonous snake, it wouldn't have been good, but all I have to do is yell for my dogs, and it'll be torn to pieces in about half a second. So
I carry a snake shot pistol normally, so it's just a little revolver with snake shot in it.
Yeah.
So. Okay. Especially if I'm like going through an area where I'm clearing out woods or something like that, then I'll carry it with me. Okay.
Don't wear flip-flops. I'm a flip-flop girl, but you don't want to be wearing flip-flops this time of year. I already know 2 people in Oklahoma that have copperhead bites because of wearing flip-flops in their yard. So
don't be me and wear these either.
Sorry, dude.
Did I talk about the llamas?
Yeah, we didn't talk about the llamas earlier, or Bob.
Yeah.
So llamas were the first
Hold on a
animals.
sec, Jill.
So we have a snake lover child in our house, so we're not allowed to kill snakes unless they are the venomous ones.
Yeah.
So what we always do is we end up catching the good snakes, the rat snakes and stuff. When we had like 6 one year, so we caught most of them, and we drive them like 5 miles away and then let them out. So you don't have to kill them if you catch them. If you can get them, you can take them, and then they don't come back because they're too far away.
But
you
Chewy likes to eat, though, and Chewy eats them. So.
No, yeah, no, I'm just saying, like, my son,
Seen that
like,
face?
my son wants to keep all this.
I understand that.
So.
I wish I was that nice of a person, but I draw the line somewhere.
I was just saying, like, you guys are saying you could just, once they know where it is, they come back.
Yeah.
Well, that's true, but if you can take them far enough, they can go live. And we always try to take them to, like, a big, like, pasture where we know there's cows or something, so it's not close to somebody else's house where it's going to go discover more eggs.
I'm glad you said that because my biggest problem when people tell me to relocate is making it somebody else's problem. So just if you do relocate, take it far, far away from other farms or you're just causing somebody else an issue. I'm kind of like Dale. Ours become pig food or junk bucket food for my chickens. So.
Our daughter is funny. Mary, she's around here somewhere. She wants to eat all the animals she doesn't like. So she wants to eat snakes, sharks, alligators. Like we have to buy shark a crest for her because she wants to eat the end. And every animal she's introduced to, she does this little evaluation of, is it something I'm going to eat? So hawks, she wants to eat hawks. And I told her, you can't do that, that's illegal. So she's got a list. Oh yes, so the llamas, we didn't talk about them earlier. So they were the first animals we got when we moved in here. Because they're some of our protection, basically. So llamas do a great job of alerting us, especially at night if there's something going on. We were walking our dog the other day and it started yelling at us because it didn't know that we were over there. So, and that's what they do. They make this warrior cry. That's why one of them is named Braveheart, because they make this crazy sound when they see something. They've been really good today. Usually when there's a lot of people, they start fighting to show everyone who's boss. Like they get all. So anyway, that's why we have them. They're super gentle, but they don't want you to touch them or hug them. We've tried for a year. But they do.
They love the baby goats.
Oh my gosh, they go wild when there's a baby goat. They make this sound like,
yeah, and then they put their neck down. And
look at our Instagram. Like we've got videos of it.
It's the cutest thing.
And then like one thought, like he almost accidentally stepped on one and he freaked out. Like, okay, like it was like. They're so awesome. So that's why we have them. And then Bob is just because Carrie is ridiculous and loves birds so much.
Yes. Yeah. I don't think anybody really saw Bob.
Yeah.
Cheetos.
You saw him? Yes. Well, he's a Rhea.
Oh, Rhea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like a small version of like an ostrich.
Okay, I was like, it looks more like an ostrich, but it's smaller than an eagle.
Exactly.
So
It's a little bit different.
Okay, I wasn't familiar.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about the llama?
Yeah.
Llama poop?
Yeah, like what is it? Good.
Oh, it's amazing. So llama poop you can use in the garden immediately. You don't have to wait for it to compost. So like with chickens or goats aren't as bad, but with cows or with chickens, you have to compost their poop before you can use it. Llamas and rabbits you can use immediately. So, and the Romans used to make drinks from it and drink it. So I mean, there's a lot of health benefits of that too if you want to try it.
You can take some.
Yeah, exactly. Just saying, fermented. They'd ferment it and then do it. It was our battle drink before they went into battle.
No, we have not tried this ourselves.
We made a prank on April Fool's Day. We made a video that she had these little strawberry raisins, like the chocolate ones. Like, and goat poop is very nutritious, and she's like eating it. And we did it with the kids, and they didn't know we were doing it. So they were like on camera, like, "What are you doing?"
One thing I could say too on that topic, as far as using the goat and rabbit compost in your garden, a lot of times we'll get messages: "Are you certified organic or certified naturally grown?" And my answer is always no, and it's exactly for that reason. If you're wanting to be actually sustainable and use your poop in that way, you can't be certified, because if you're certified organic, you can buy turkey poop and put it on your farm, but you are not allowed to have your livestock in your garden area at all, period, because they're worried about cross-contamination of parasites and stuff. So if you're gonna be a livestock farm and a market garden, your market garden, to be certified organic or certified naturally grown, cannot have any livestock in it or on it from your farm. They want to sell it to you in a bag instead. So it's kind of funny because people think that I'm making an excuse. You know, a lot of people use the beyond organic term, but organic and certified naturally grown can still use chemicals and pesticides that I would never put on my garden. But I don't want anybody telling me I can't put rabbit poop in my raised beds.
So
From your own rabbits that you take care of and know are healthy.
Yeah, that we feed from our garden.
Yeah, that's crazy to me.
So it's just funny because a lot of people are looking, and that's why I always say, like, if you're going to go to a farmer's market and try and find your food, don't judge that person for saying, no, I'm not certified organic, because you're probably going to be buying a better product. Just ask those questions so you know what they're utilizing, because I have friends that are using chemicals that I would never use on my farm. So the labels don't matter. The questions and the communication does.
Any other questions about anything at all? Yeah. He does that.
What if you don't have animals? How can you keep your garden pest-free in a natural way?
Okay, so before chickens is a lot harder so I will say our app has sections for each pest that like lists all the stuff I'm about to say. So if there's something I forget or whatever, like you can find it there again. But for the most common, so for caterpillars, for example, one way, which doesn't work for everyone, I pay my kids $1/4 for each caterpillar. And early in the season, that worked really well. But then they get old enough where $1/4 doesn't matter, and now it wouldn't work, would it? Nope. She ain't gonna do it for $1/4 anymore. So anyway, they have this stuff called BTK. I'm not going to even try and pronounce it. It's a long Latin term. But it's a naturally occurring soil bacteria that they bottle up and you can spray in your plants, and when caterpillars eat it, it kills them. So it's organic. I never loved using it, even though all the studies show it's safe. But that's one thing you can do that, is probably the best option other than something that's a straight up poison. A better option, in my opinion, if you have like the ability to like construct something like this, is to have like an insect netting over it. So like over those smart pots, you see those little PVC half hoops I have over. Those were there in case there was insect pressure. I could just quickly throw over insect netting and kind of staple it down. Insect pressure never came because this chicken moat pretty much did it for us, but it was there in case. Also, if there's a hailstorm, I can throw a tarp over it. Like, it's just structure for stuff like that. The plants are too big now. This is really for when they were babies, right? So those are ways you can handle that pest. Other pests, like cucumber beetles, we set up traps where we have yellow sticky, so with cucumber beetles, we yellow solo cups because it looks like the flower of a cucumber or a squash plant. And then we coat the inside of it with sticky trap. And then on the inside of it, we put petals from a squash plant or clove essential oil, something to attract them. They go in there and they get stuck. We also try and grow vertically with squash. That way squash bugs aren't able to hide under the leaves. So it gives birds and stuff like that a better chance to find them. Praying mantises. Bought praying mantises on eBay. I don't know if that brought me. We had a bunch. I don't know if that's why or not. They're little jerks though. You can get in fights with them with a pencil. It's kind of fun. They'll take it real serious.
How long did it take them to come out of their little thing? The praying mantis.
Our
We bought some.
ours didn't hatch this year.
They didn't.
Yeah.
So we have some, but they
I don't know. I put them somewhere and forgot about them until I saw.
And then you noticed them. Okay.
You can buy lots of beneficial
She
insects
didn't like
or
that I
attract
did
them
it,
naturally. So I mean, you can buy beneficial nematodes for your soil too.
Don't buy ladybugs though. They're just gonna fly away.
But people do. I mean, we try and attract naturally. I've never bought ladybugs, but I do have a lot of market gardener friends that do purchase them and swear by them for aphids. We try purposely to have the chicken highway like they have here. We were able to naturally attract the predatory wasps that went after tomato hornworms, so that was really cool to see last year. I think I posted a picture of that, but trying to get a good bug balance is really, really important. When you start introducing chemicals, it breaks up that balance. So,
spiders. We cultivated spiders. We had 17 orb weavers at our old place. That
orb weavers are
I would
amazing.
build structure for them, and we're gonna do the same thing here. I want them everywhere, and then we had one that made 4 egg nests because we fed it so well. Because we would go collect grasshoppers and throw it up into the nest, and those are cool
I
videos
name them.
too.
Every year my orb weavers get names. We love the
Ours
orbs.
are all Nelly Furtado, Maneater, because they eat their mate after they mate. So that's So what other common pests that we deal with? Rodents and stuff like that. A motion activated sprinkler can help pretty well with our own cats. Because the cats are great, but we got to keep them out of the garden. So the motion activated sprinkler does that. They'll scare away rabbits too. What other pests are you concerned? Have you dealt with? Or you?
How do you keep your cats from eating the baby chickens?
Well, we keep the chickens protected until they're old enough, or there's a mama and a rooster with them, and the cats don't mess with the rooster. So, like, when we first moved in, the cats were very interested in them. Now they're bored with them.
Yeah, they
And
don't
it's too
care
easy.
at all.
They don't want that because they're like, I don't know, but I'm trying to psychoanalyze these cats. But that's the only thing I can come to because they don't. Because now we have babies everywhere and the cats don't mess with them. But there's usually mamas with them too.
Well, we have like a feral cat, stray cat.
Yeah. That cat's probably pretty hungry too. I mean, we feed our cats a lot, so that they're usually too fat to go look around. Now we have two that like live over here in the barn. And they're always cutting mice and stuff, but.
I don't know if we can get the mice and the snakes, but you know, I don't want them to come at my quail when they go outside.
Well, quail are small enough that might be different too.
Training the livestock dogs, you know, for us, my dogs catch the loose quail for me just fine, but we had a bobcat problem. I can't do cats because my livestock dogs just won't allow cats on the property now because they got bobcats right when we first moved out there, so they see the cats as a predator.
Yeah.
So we just can't, which would be great because we are having some kind of rodent problem right now that I can't deal with cats for that reason, but I feel like you can train, like he said, having them fed is really, really good anyways, but they're not going to go after prey if they...
I mean, it's not my cat, it's a stray cat.
Stray cat,
Yeah, I don't want to take them on my birds.
Yeah. Well, the quail are locked up anyways, right?
Yeah, I'm building them a chicken tractor right now, but they're inside.
Yeah.
Hey, guys.
Yeah, the biggest predator I have with quail is snakes.
No, Luca's all the way over there.
Yeah.
Do you get a lot of mice?
Not anymore. No, the cats handle mice.
The chickens do too. I've actually seen chickens with the mice hanging out of their mouth.
In the city, we have way more mice than we do here.
Yeah, when I first bought my 20 acres, we had a huge amount of mice, and the chickens went after the nests, and it's a lot better now.
Yeah, the chickens protect our RV from mice. That's why they're over there. Yeah.
They love going after the mice. I mean, the frogs are great for the mosquito population, but you'll see a chicken on my farm running around with a frog sticking out of its throat, and all the other chickens are chasing them.
We take the frogs into the garden to protect them. It's like every time the kids see a frog, I gotta get it and save it.
I think we have probably about 30-40 minutes left, so I don't know if you guys don't have any questions for the group. We can maybe even just split off and answer questions personally one-on-one for
And
a
if
little
anyone
bit.
wants to see planting, like we have stuff we can plant, so we can go do that if someone wants to do that. Y'all can plant for me. That works great too. I'm open to all ideas.
Put all the kids to work pulling weeds.
Let's do it. Y'all want to feed rabbits? Here we go. And what other questions? I thought I saw a couple hands. Maybe not.
So you take the llama poop and the rabbit poop, and you'll just till it in, or you use your tractor, your rabbit tractor.
Oh, yeah, so the strawberries over there have llama poop all around it. I just put it right on top. I top dressed them after we planted. It was like my mulch basically.
We plant right in it too. I've never made myself sick off of something that I've raised or butchered on my farm. I'll plant carrots in it. Pull the carrots up out of the ground, rinse it off with a hose, and eat it right there. I've never
Even after the pigs, do you have any caution
No,
with that?
pigs you do want to give them a couple of months. Like if I run pigs through the garden area, it's usually at the end of the season, and I'm gonna let that sit
Over the winter type?
over the winter. Run the chickens through it right afterwards, and then just let it sit for a while with some cover crops before. But as far as like the rabbits and the goat manure, llama, stuff like that, we'll plant right in it.
The ruminants and the rodents, those are fine.
It's great stuff. Don't go buy a bag of turkey poop when you can have rabbit poop instead.
What kind of rabbits?
Well, we wanted to have a bunch of poop, so we got the biggest rabbits. So Flemish Giants and Continental, we have those two breeds. We're making more if you want one. Well, we're not making them, they are. There's more rabbits coming.
What is it?
Flemish Giant and Continental.
And we have the New Zealand whites.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I think the New
Wallace
Zealanders
has-
make all the poop you want.
Yeah, she has the most healthy, beautiful New Zealand Reds that I've ever raised, and I swear by her rabbits. They've been great, but we took a rabbit break, and we're gonna start getting back into them just specifically for the garden compost itself. But she cans a lot of rabbit meat too, so we're gonna do a meat canning class together
I had
soon.
a big bowl of chunked rabbit meat to can the other day, and then I got lazy, so I just sauteed it.
I think like the normal meat rabbit is New Zealand or the Californians, but anything works if you're looking for meat and compost. You know, I don't recommend the Rex in Oklahoma because they tend to get overheated in the summertime.
The Flemish can be a problem with that too.
Yeah.
You gotta keep
Summertime
them
for
nice
rabbits is actually worse than wintertime. People are always worried about them being cold, but it's more heat than it is cold.
Yeah, we do frozen, like we do like frozen milk jugs or anything like
They
that.
have
We
like a
go
whole
and
deep freeze.
we go and put it into their area whenever it gets like above 90.
Whoever asked about vacations, that's one thing. It's funny because we've actually found that the bigger the animal, the easier it is to get away. Things like the rabbits, especially in the summertime, you're giving them frozen water or vegetables every day, a couple times a day sometimes. For me, the bigger, like the ruminants, I know I can just move them to a new place to graze and fill up a huge thing of water, and I can go out of town for the weekend.
And that's the goats and the sheep, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, or cows.
Yeah. Goats, sheep, cows.
Sheep
I'm
will
really
be
loving
if you want to
sheep.
start off, sheep are the easiest.
Really?
Yeah, and also they're if you just want to have something for mowing, they're the best because they clip the grass like an inch up like a mower, and they don't pull anything out.
And
the
don't
goats
challenge
will.
fences.
Yeah, and they're very docile. The sheep will be the easiest thing to start with, and they're basically just a lawnmower.
I absolutely agree with that.
And if you hug them, it's like taking a Xanax.
You can
I'm
see it.
serious. It's something
see the
magical
sheep.
about it. Go try it. Go hug a sheep. It is what there's something about their demeanor. It's just calming, and you just like inherit that from them. So, total accident. I was stressed one day. I hugged the sheep. It was fun.
Do you de-stress, Dale?
No. Well, we've come to. We're pretty good now, but Buttons and I had to act like a gorilla to her several times. Because like when you assert dominance on a goat, that's how you do it. You act like a gorilla. You like, raise up and you like show your teeth and growl and. Had to like take her to the ground and like pin her down. Like,
She's like, this guy's crazy.
we were almost gonna sell her for a while, and now she's one of our nicest goats to us. But she doesn't like strangers.
Yeah.
So, and she doesn't. Like, she came from her and then attacked her when she came back.
She had some vindictiveness.
She was mad that you sold her.
Yeah. I was actually shocked because when she told me they were having problems with her, I'm like, that's so sad because she's such a good milker. And I came out to visit, and I was all excited to see her, and I walk in the pen, and she horned the heck out of me. So
She was a bit resentful.
yeah, she was
She
angry.
is.
She's
She holds a
like,
grudge. She's sweet to us now.
She's being sweet to Blaze now. She forgave. She just had to let her know.
She looks like she's alive.
Yeah, she's being treated for anemia right now. So
Oh,
we're
yeah,
having a
so-
hard time. Yeah, you
So
want to
one
talk
thing,
about that?
yeah.
that's a good
So
idea.
whenever you have goats, one thing that you want to do is like check their eyelids, so it's their Famantra score. Come here, show. Come here. So right here, if you can kind of see underneath, so you want it to be like a dark pink color. So if you see, she's pale.
Yeah.
So she is, she's getting like red blood cell. She's getting vitamin B shots. And she's getting like some probiotics, like she's getting a lot of things. So a lot of the times that's something that you have to deal with, especially after they have babies. So
And then ticks too. She had a lot of ticks right under here on her horn. You couldn't even see.
yes, so
And
we
you
were
run your finger
pulling
there
off
is like-
ticks and
So you gotta. That's the biggest place ticks go on the goats is like under there where you can't even see them.
How are the sheep with ticks?
we haven't noticed a huge issue with them.
But they're hard. They're not cuddling on us. Like the sheep
Right.
are pretty skittish. If they're hungry, they'll come up to us. Otherwise, like.
But they're hair sheep, so they've lost most of theirs, so they don't have much for them to go in. It's not like the easy hiding spots. Yeah.
Yeah. We're closing on a place next week. It's 8 acres.
Congratulations.
And, we don't have any trees on it. So I'm like, goats aren't going to do as much good.
Yeah.
Sheep are
We've been
perfect.
looking at the
Is it
sheep.
fenced already? Or?
It's fenced on 3 sides currently.
Well, the sheep will really respect these fences. Like
Oh,
so,
yes.
even these premier one, like they don't mess around. Like,
Yeah, they've never. The goats sometimes will be like, ooh,
Yeah.
can I?
the boys will. The girls aren't too much, but the boy will test the fence.
What do you need for the sheep as far as kind of a shelter or what?
Yeah. Oh, let's talk about that. We didn't cover. Let me talk about the housing over here. We can see. Bars for housing for these animals. If anyone wants to see that, follow me. Yep. This right here is the basically all the stuff I use. Like I just got a big load of cattle panels from someone on Craigslist the other day that was selling them for like 15 each. Like I'm always watching Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist. I have alerts set up for cattle panels for everything you can imagine.
And that lid on top, if you unscrew it, it's the perfect spot for a heat lamp.
Yes,
in
perfect.
wintertime.
Yep, you can zip tie it down so it can't be knocked off. And whenever we had the very cold, freezing temperatures, we had about 75% of animals we were able to get into that building. It was chaos.
Huh.
But the bigger ones, like we couldn't, and those did just fine with that heat lamp. And then also, like that's a broken trampoline out there, but it's a great hay holder because the hay doesn't get wet. So we can just cover that with hay once a week. And then the animals come around, some jump on top. It's like a buffet for them. So, you know, just be resourceful. I mean, I know this doesn't look the greatest, but like this will all be stuff here real soon I'm building. So,
we want functional, not pretty.
Right.
Yep.
And we want cheap, you know. And then the totes are even great just because it saves you from having to build one more thing, especially this time of year when you're super busy anyway. So.
And then if you're not,
We're moving next month.
and then like on these totes, if they do have the cages on them, like I have a water one over there that I use for reserve water. I've got I've got 6 of them on the other side of the house you can't see that we keep for backup water. We've got, like I said, for waters for the animals, we've got them in different places. I cut them in half and then mix my soil in it, so I have a big reservoir of soil mix. It's over on the side of the shop if y'all want to see that.
And the feeder that he has right there is actually made out of one.
Yep. It's just cut down.
Okay.
That's cool.
And those are usually between 50 or 60 for one that is like the full thing with the cage and everything. But you get so many uses out of it. I'm trying to figure out how to make a little chicken coop out of it. That's my next project. And I got one that's right there. See the thing with the cage on it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Here.
I'm trying to figure out how to like take, that's like 2 pieces of it basically.
That'd make a great brooder.
Yeah.
Great.
That's
brooder.
what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So I have a bit of an IBC tote collection problem, but
Sheep were out.
the sheep are out?
No, they're back out.
Oh, okay.
so
I
if
was saying,
anybody
I was just
wanted-
bragging on that. I never leave them out.
running.
See them.
And Boo was out too,
And
right?
Boo was there, yeah.
Okay.
So if anybody wanted to see the sheep, that
The goat we love the most. The goat with
and
the
the
most.
goat we love.
What's your Which one did you plant?
I planted that one, that one, and 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 that one.
Wow, that's a lot. Was that almost all of them, I think?
And Mom planted that one, and that one, and that one. Dad planted that one, and that one, and that one. We all worked hard.